I've heard that it's especially holy to die during the time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when our deeds are being judged. So it's especially poignant to me that Ruth died at this time of year. If ever anyone were a shining example of how to live a good life, it is Ruth Goldstein. I met Ruth long ago when Richie Goldstein invited Jordy and me to a Passover Seder at his parents' house. This was even before I became Jewish myself. As I learned later on, that dinner was typical of Bob and Ruth. Making people welcome was their specialty. Years later, after Jordan and I had returned to raise our family in Bloomington, I really got to know Bob and Ruth in the scope of their generosity. They opened their house on Wexley Drive to the Beth Shalom Book Group, Hadassah meetings, planning meetings of all kind for Beth Shalom and many other activities, and of course, gatherings to meet and hear Democratic candidates for office. They put together huge Passover Seders and included not only family and friends, but foreign students, people new to the community, friends of family, and friends of friends of friends. You get the picture. When we had visiting Israeli relatives, Ruth took us all in the big brown Suburban for a tour of interesting things in Indianapolis. When my parents-in-law visited Bloomington, Ruth and Bob had us all over to their house. But as I think of what Ruth has meant to me, it's been more than friendship, although that was generous enough. Ruth became my mentor in how to live a good Jewish life. I couldn't quote where it might say how we should live, and I don't know if Ruth could either, but she certainly knew how to do it. She brought me to the Hadassah group, and I learned about how incredible it is when a group of Jewish women work together to support the projects in Israel, to advocate for legislation in our own country which supports causes important to women, and to run programs locally which educated women about a myriad of topics. She was proud, as I am proud, of being a life member of Hadassah and a former chapter president. The very fabric of Ruth's life was woven with doing for others, with learning and growing. She took a lot of pleasure in being able to take care of the granddaughters here in town. She knitted presents for others, including a beautiful blue scarf that she gave to Abby for a bat mitzvah present. When Ruth and Bob's son David died of AIDS years ago, Ruth and Bob's reaction was to join an AIDS support group at the hospital and later to become active members of PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Ruth and Bob worked for years at the polls on Election Day. They were proud supporters of Harmony School, founded by their son-in-law, Steve Bonchek. Ruth and Bob became members of the steering committee for Bloomington United, a group which formed to support diversity and tolerance after the murder of Won Jun Yoon, a Korean graduate student here in Bloomington. Ruth, like her husband, was willing to speak out, and she wrote letters to the editor, plenty of letters to the editor. She coordinated the book group at Beth Shalom. She and Bob were members of the Hever Kadisha at Beth Shalom, the Burial Society, from the very beginning, and as Nancy Brand mentioned to me, they always said yes. In fact, just a year ago, Ruth was there as the members of the Hever Kadisha performed the ritual prayers, washing and dressing after a death. Nancy said that at that time, knowing the state of Ruth's health, she told Ruth, "You can rest on your laurels, you've done enough." But of course Ruth was there. Ruth was always there. I can just see Ruth pulling out a notebook and saying, "Let's just make a list of who'll do what." Ruth is quoted in a 1988 Herald Times article about letter writing on behalf of Russian refuseniks. When asked, "And why are the people of Beth Shalom so concerned about the plight of these refuseniks, a group of people an ocean away?" Ruth said, "It's our way to show our appreciation for being free." Ruth showed her appreciation for good life in so many ways, and taught me and so many others that stepping up and volunteering is an important part of living a good life, a moral life, to living out Jewish ethics. In earlier years, she encouraged me and taught me when, as a convert to Judaism, I felt foolish about not knowing how to do something. And when people gathered, whether for a Torah study luncheon or a festive holiday meal, you could always count on Ruth to bring a dish, and it would be a really good dish. I hope that she could hear me a few days ago when I spoke to her. I said, "Ruth, may God bless you and keep you. You've been a good wife, a good mom, a good organizer and volunteer and activist, a good Democrat, and a really good friend." I added that anything I ever do for others is just walking in Ruth's footsteps. But to stretch that image just a little further, in doing for others, Ruth Goldstein left some pretty big shoes to fill.